Thank you so
Brodie.
much, Brodie. It's 20 to 7, as you've seen in the news. British authorities have this morning named the man they believe to be responsible for the attack on Westminster. And ISIS claims 52-year-old Khalid Masood was acting as one of its soldiers. Counter-terrorism raids across the UK have seen 8 people arrested. But still, police think Masood acted alone. Global security expert Dr. Robert Patman joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Hilary.
Do you agree? Is it likely this man acted alone?
It's very difficult to say at the moment. We don't know who's arrested and whether they had connections with Khalid Masood. But he certainly was born, we know he was born in Kent in the UK, so he certainly has been a British citizen all his life. And in a sense, it does reinforce fears about lone wolf attacks. But it's interesting, Islamic State quickly claimed credit for this. And it's just watch this space, I think. I think that it's a rapidly unfolding picture at the moment.
It certainly bore the hallmarks of an ISIS attack. You know, the car being used as a weapon, the attacker wearing all black. Yeah,
it certainly did. And it followed the hallmark of similar attacks in Nice, in France, in July last year, and also Berlin, when someone got hold of a lorry and went through the Christmas markets in December last year in Berlin. So it was, I think London, the authorities in London have been expecting this. It doesn't diminish the shock, but they tackled the situation rapidly. They tackled the suspect very rapidly, and they also had almost an immediate lockdown. So it showed, I think, that the British were pretty well prepared to deal with this situation.
Do you think it was a carefully orchestrated plan by this man?
Again, I wouldn't like to speculate about that, Hilary. It's just difficult to know at this point in time. He clearly had intent and was determined to try to get into the parliamentary estate, as they call it.
Yes, because we certainly talked about the timing and whether it was a coincidence or planned that this coincided with the ISIS meeting in Washington as well.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about the fight against ISIS. US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was speaking at this conference that we just mentioned. He reckons that momentum has swung in their favour in Iraq and Syria. How badly has ISIS been hurt lately?
Well, militarily, ISIS has, for the last 18 months, been on the back foot and lost substantial territory in both Iraq. At the moment, they're really in their last stronghold, which is Mosul, which they captured with the invasion of Iraq by ISIS in 2014, June 2014. So, and they're probably going to be ejected from Mosul in the not too distant future. But militarily, things are going quite well for the anti-coalition, for the anti-ISIS coalition. But politically, this is a political struggle as well as a military one. You could kill all the leadership of ISIS and still have a massive problem. This incident we've just seen in London indicates that people inspired by the ideas of ISIS can act relatively autonomously and carry out atrocities. So we have to keep this in proportion. The bigger question is, are they dealing with the issues that are fueling the rise of ISIS? The crucial issue that's been connected with the rise of ISIS is the Syrian civil war. And that really remains a major problem.
We know that ISIS is running out of money. How is that affecting the way they carry out these attacks?
Well, I think increasingly they're relying, to be fair to them, they've probably done this from the outset, they're increasingly relying, making virtue of necessity, on their appeal through the social media and less emphasis on getting equipment and logistical support to operatives abroad. But I think what you will see, as ISIS is increasingly squeezed in its stronghold in both Syria and Iraq, we can expect these attacks in the backyards of the countries which are part of the anti-ISIS coalition, like Britain, like the United States, like many members of Europe, and indeed New Zealand and Australia. We can expect attempts to carry out these sort of atrocities to remind these countries they have a price to pay if they remain part of this coalition. So
how does the Western world beat ISIS? Trump's planning shock and awe.
Well, that's ironic, really, isn't it? Mr. Trump is talking about supporting the dictatorship in Syria against the war of ISIS. But in fact, it was Russian support for the dictatorship in Syria which has led to fuel the rise of ISIS. And so we have to sort out a solution to the Syrian. How do we do this? Well, it needs a lot more political will we're seeing. one of the depressing things about incidents that we've seen in Westminster, there's always a tremendous focus on intelligence and security preparedness, less discussion about the causes of what's driving ISIS. In other words, we can't just confine our attention to the symptoms of the problem. We have to actually sort out the mess in the Middle East, which is leading to the rise of ISIS.
Global security expert Dr. Robert Patman, thank you.
It's just coming up to 6:45 on